Thank you guys for joining our last session of the day for our Internship Symposium. It's been some awesome sessions that we've had. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Giselle Wilson. I am the BBA Career Coach and the Internship Coordinator for the College of Business Career Center. On the call, we also have Brett Hobby, who is the Director of the Career Center, and our lovely guest is Miss Khadijah Brown, a UHD College of Business alumni. So we bring in back our students to talk to you. And just some housekeeping notes. You can ask questions throughout the session whenever you have one. Just make sure you're using the Q&A box, and we will be answering those questions at the end. And this session is being recorded, so if you missed something, that's okay. You will be receiving a link to this session about 24 hours after it concludes. So again, make sure you're using that Q&A box for all your questions. And Ms. Khadijah, I'm going to give it over to you.
Thank you, Giselle. Thank you, Brett. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining this session. My name is Khadijah Brown, and today I'm going to be talking to you about internships and leveraging your internship into a career change or just the career that you want. So here's some quick photos of me, and that's basically me at a glance. I like to travel. I also like politics, news. I am also interested in learning different languages. I currently still have an unhealthy obsession with TikTok. I'm working on it. I downloaded it ironically when the pandemic first started, and now I can't quit it. But some of the favorite places that I have visited are Fez, Morocco, Bangkok, Thailand, Paris, France, Muscat, Oman, and Istanbul. Those are some of my favorite cities. And the people in these photos are some of the most important people to me. So that's my dad with his cat that he said he never wanted. The little girl in the middle is my niece. And the gentlemen at the top are my fiance and my father-in-law. And the photos on the left and the bottom are of my recent trip to Morocco. So yeah, let's get started. So this is just an agenda of what we're going to be talking about. So after the introduction, I'll show you a career map of how I've progressed through my career. Then we'll talk a little bit about why interning is important. The importance of case studies, and how to manage and leverage your internship into the career that you're looking for. And we'll just talk a little bit about HP and HR map. And at the end, as Giselle mentioned, we'll have a Q&A, or you can pop them into the chat. And so this is my career map. So it starts at Texas Southern University. I graduated in 2008 with a bachelor's degree in history. And soon after that, I started to work as an elementary school teacher here in Houston, Texas. I graduated in the middle of the recession. So teaching wasn't the career that I wanted, but it was the career that was available. It was the career that paid the bills, and it was what was available to me at the time. So I started teaching, and I learned how to do it. I became good at it because I did for quite a while, but wasn't super happy with teaching. So I decided in 2012 that I would move to the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, to see if teaching in another place would start to engage me or make me happier about teaching. That did not work. I still just was pretty much not engaged in teaching, and I wasn't happy. I returned stateside in 2017. I started with my MBA at the University of Houston downtown, and I graduated in 2020. So in the first year, after the first year, I landed an internship at Phillips 66, an oil and gas company here in Houston, Texas. And then that took me over to HP. That landed me at HP, where I am right now. And So I'm in the MAP program, and that's a developmental program where we cycle through 8 months, well, 26 months, but 8-month rotations. And my first one, I was an HRBP for our transformation and IT departments. I got engaged in February 2021 and then moved right into my second business rotation. And that one lasted for 2 months, and I was a project manager. I am now currently in my second 8-month rotation as a business compensation manager in transformation and IT. And then I also serve as the MAP recruitment lead for our internship in HR, HP. So I want to talk about why I interned. So as I mentioned before, I taught for 6 years in Houston and 5 years abroad in the UAE. So that was 11 years, never really had a passion for it. And I graduated, as I said, also with that bachelor's degree in 2008. Jobs were scarce. I started teaching. I was disengaged almost all the time, even from the beginning. I couldn't really laugh with my students. I couldn't enjoy work. I would show up to work every day late with an iced coffee. And every single day, I was phoning it in. To be completely transparent with you, I was going through the motions and I was on autopilot. When I returned from Dubai in 2017, I had already started to research University of Houston Downtown's program, and I thought it was right for me. I went to a couple of info sessions to learn more about the program, and I think my favorite part was the corporate fellow aspect of the program. I thought that was pretty high touch, and the class times were flexible. So when I started, my first classes were in the HR concentration, and I remember employment law was one of my first courses, and I knew right away in that class I had started studying something that I would love. And it was within those HR concentration classes that my interest in HR really started to grow. And at the same time, my disinterest in teaching, it was greater than ever before. I would go into work each day and I couldn't wait to go downtown to U of H downtown to my MBA classes. So my HR courses had kind of become the excitement and the engagement that I had been missing for such a long time. So I remember during that first semester, I must have applied to what felt like 1,000 HR jobs. And I never got any hits. I never got even like an interview. And I was just like, what is happening? What is wrong? What's going on here? And I am sure, some of you know that song and dance. You felt that job application process pain before. It feels like it's you against the black hole that is the applicant tracking system. But I knew what I needed, and that was just a point of entry. So the passion was there. I just needed a means of access. So one of my favorite professors spoke to us one night during his talent management class, and he was talking to us about this prestigious internship at Phillips 66. So they had decided to hold a case study competition, and University of Houston Downtown had built this relationship with them, and so they invited us to participate. And so I thought, this is it. This is my opportunity, and I recognized it right away. So summer was approaching, and so was the end of my first year at University of Houston Downtown in the MBA program. So I told my professor, during that last week of class, I have to get this internship. I can't go back to the classroom with the kindergartners. I am quitting this job. And he said, well, you can get it, you can do it, you've done the preparation, and this is your opportunity. So when I think about success, and this is a famous quote, and maybe you guys have heard it before, but when I think about success, I always think about, you do have to do your part, right? And that's where the preparation part exists. But then it's really nice to come into an opportunity so you can have a chance to show what you've prepped for. And so I saw this as my apex between those two things. And if I wanted to break into this new industry and carve out a new career for myself, knowing nothing besides what I learned in books, I was going to have to start fresh, and I needed some experience. And I knew I'd get some if I got this internship. So I was super intimidated by my cohort at University of Houston Downtown. They were all really smart people. Most of them had years of HR experience already. And some of them just wanted to leverage the MBA to get higher positions or higher pay, which is what many of us use our MBA to do. Nothing wrong with that. They already knew so much, and I knew so little about HR. So I found myself intimidated a lot of times, and I was always so full of questions. So my confidence was kind of shook, but I proceeded to gather a team for this case study and we started prepping. So to shorten a very lengthy story, we went to the competition. There were 12 other universities competing against us and we killed it and we won first place. So even with my voice just shaking and trembling throughout the entire presentation, we won. However, the prize was not the internship itself. The prize was just an interview. That's how competitive this internship was. So the three of us, my team, we were invited back to Phillips 66 headquarters, but we would have to do individual interviews. So 2 weeks later, I can never forget because I was at recess with my kindergartners and Phillips 66 called me and offered me the internship. And I was the only one who got it from my team. And I was beside myself because it felt like success to me. And so at this point in the presentation, I would be completely remiss if I didn't insert a quick word about the importance of case studies. So I'm going to do that super quickly here. I think that you are either a lover or a hater of the case study. I've not met a person who is in the middle. So I think whichever side you fall on, recognizing their importance is critical. If you have not reached the point in your MBA career at University of Houston downtown where you're inundated with case study after case study, it's great news that I get to tell you beforehand, don't neglect the opportunity to learn how to dissect these case studies. Why? You might ask, why? Why are they so important? First of all, they're everywhere in large corporate companies. I see them almost every week. Someone's working on a case study. They want me to help them build out a case study. Case studies encourage agile growth mindset thinking. You'll see those questions when you go into interviews. You'll find case studies a lot of times in interviews. So we use them we use them as icebreakers for staff meetings. We use them at work conferences. So we'll be at a work conference and as a fun team building event, they'll say, here's the case study. And you are team building for sure, but also to be honest, your leaders are listening to your thought processes for carving out recommendations to solve the HR problems. So you stand out when you know how to dissect and solution a case study in real time on your feet. And they notice. So case studies are where HR professionals get to showcase their innovation. How we think about and approach human capital problems is the fabric of the work we do in HR. So case studies prepare you for this kind of deep, layered thinking. They also teach you how to think critically and how to solve problems in corporations. In my role as lead recruiter, I have to write a new confidential case study that we present to interns to solve in their final interview with our HRLT team. So the cases have to be airtight. So now when you have the opportunity to practice dissecting and solving cases, it'll help you know what's required to write one and build one from scratch. I'll leave it at that. They are super, super important. So these are just some really amazing statistics that I found on internships. My favorite one here is that top one on the left. 60% of students in each graduating class participate in an internship. And 80% of new employees at giants like PricewaterhouseCoopers and Deloitte intern with the company first. I think that's huge. So yeah, and also I love this one at the bottom where it says 83% of interns who did not receive a full-time offer say their network expanded significantly after the internship. So that's another huge reason why internships are great because they really help you work on your network. So now I want to talk to you about what you can get out of an internship. So first of all, internship, they're not a one-way street. It's not just some company kind of using you for your labor, right? Most internships these days, mostly all of them are paid. An internship is like a 3-month-long job interview, but you're not the only one who's being interviewed. Internships are a great way for you to find out if this is a place where you can see yourself long-term. So it's an opportunity for you to ask your manager and other leaders hard questions about their culture, work-life balance, how they collaborate, and how they measure employee performance. It's the perfect amount of time for you to see how you fit, what their values are as a company, and if their values align with your own. And if the internship works out, and if you produce valuable work, they'll usually make you an offer at the end of the summer. You need to be prepared to accept or decline. Because what happens if they don't make you an offer, right? I would not neglect to include that I was not offered a full-time position at Phillips 66. I worked super hard and with passion each day of my time there, but they didn't think I was a fit. And at the time, I was heartbroken because everything I had done up to that point was for this. I came in every day early, I stayed every day late, and I wanted this so bad. I had already quit my job, and my father was paying my rent. So, I networked with everyone. I requested meetings with leaders, I asked questions, but just like that, it was gone. So it was only later in retrospect that I discovered that the oil and gas sector was not a good fit for me. But what I failed to do during my internship was interview my employer. So I walked through that entire summer being interviewed and thinking that I didn't have any leverage. That's not true. It is the one thing that I would change if I could. So in the end, you need to be prepared to professionally ask for feedback. If you can see yourself working at the company in the future, you need to ask your manager what skills he or she thinks you should acquire to make that a reality. And what's the best way to get your foot back in the door? You're already there, right? So you're sitting in the perfect seat to ask these questions. Once you leave, it will just be you against the applicant tracking system. So make sure to build a network while you're in your internship. So I will talk with you now about HP, my company. Our vision is to create technology that makes life better for everyone, everywhere. Our mission is to engineer experiences that amaze. So we're an engineering company and we exist to amaze in everything we do, not just in the products and the technology we make, but also in the talented people that we hire and in the way we treat our customers, our partners, and our employees. And our CEO, his name is Enrique Lores. He says what he means and he means what he says. And I found that out in the summer of 2020 when it came to issues like social injustice or inequities that exist in our societies and how the heavy lifting of an authentic approach to diversity can fix these issues. So I knew at that point when I first started engaging with HP that this was the company that aligned with what I want, where I wanted to be. These are just some stats on HP today. We generated 56.6 billion in revenue in FY 2020, and we have actually currently about 55,000 employees in over 180 countries. I am a part of the HR MAP program, as I mentioned before, and basically what that is it's a developmental program. It starts out with a 12-week summer internship. And then those interns are given an offer to begin the full-time MAP program, which is where I am right now. Because we are a truly global organization, you'll have the opportunity to work with our global functions and gain international exposure through partnering with these teams. And these are just some of the things that we look for in our intern candidates. So we usually look for these stock things like 3 to 5 years of professional experience, the authorization to work in the United States. But here is what we're looking for as far as a success profile for our internships. So we're always wanting to talk with people in our phone screens and our behavioral interviews who have growth mindsets. So diversity is something that's extremely important to us. And we are always looking for people who have a diversity of experiences and thought. One great thing about our program with MAPS is that we have a really wide range of diversity of thought and experience. So lots of us bring vastly different experiences to this cohort, which makes our collaborative spaces truly unique. So MAPS ask a ton of questions, they're agile, and we focus on disrupting and innovating. Even though we're HR professionals, we're not engineers, but we still like to think of ourselves as disruptors. And These are just a couple of map journeys that demonstrate how we move through the rotation. So after the internships, this is where those 24 months would start. The business rotation that you'll see on item number 2 and item number 3, respectively, those are the 2-month rotations. So generally speaking, the MAP internship serves as an excellent pipeline to go directly into our full-time MAP cohort group. And at the end of this 26-month program, I will transition into a longer term permanent role based on my talents or based on the passions that I developed throughout this rotational program. Here's some pictures from our Houston site. It's a gorgeous campus located in the northern part of the city. The people on the bottom center and the bottom right are the newest Houston cohorts. And that is all about myself, why I value internships, why I think they're so important, and how you can use them to leverage yourself into really the career of your dreams. I have never been happier. I love this company. I love the work that I do every day, and I find importance and meaning in the work that I do every day. So, I truly don't think I would have been here without an internship. So, with that said, I'll go ahead and take your questions. Let's see.
Okay, so we have some coming through. All right, so as our questions are coming through, I kind of want to cheat a little bit and ask my question first. So in the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned how when you graduated during your undergrad, you graduated during the Great Recession. And then lo and behold, 2020, when you graduated during a pandemic. So how did that those two unique situations alter your career path? Did you find any challenges? Did you have any challenges? Just basically, what was your experience? What did you go through? And pretty sure students are still graduating during the pandemic. So any advice that you have for them as well?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. And I think it's an important one because when I graduated in 2008, the recession was a real thing, right? Like people were talking about it on the news, but I was feeling it because as I mentioned, I'd applied for so many jobs and there were just no hits. So that affected me because I was forced to kind of take a job that I knew I didn't want, but I needed to start working. I had student loans that I needed to pay, right? So I knew I needed to start working. I didn't want to take that job, but I was kind of forced to. However, in my undergrad, I had never had the forethought to take an internship, right? Internships are where you can get this really amazing experience that you can leverage to propel yourself into the door. So as a recruiter now for the MAP program, when I'm looking at resumes, I always go to their internships first. I want to see what kind of experiences they've gained in their internships because we're not necessarily looking for HR experience. But we are looking for people who have had unique experiences or learned unique things while they were, along their career path. So that's the first thing. I think in 2020, none of us knew that the pandemic was going to happen, Giselle. And I was absolutely shook with fear because I was supposed to graduate in May, and I did. But starting in March, I saw a lot of my cohort members who had gotten offers for both internships and full-time jobs say they rescinded their offer. They took their offer back. I wasn't able to get the job that I thought I was going to get because of the pandemic. So I think the answer to your question is you really just need to prepare yourself for those kinds of curveballs. They do happen. It's unfortunate, but I think the more prep you have and the more experience you have, you leverage those things to just kind of help you remain agile, to help you pivot quickly and get on to the next phase. I thought I was heartbroken when I didn't get that internship, that full-time offer from that internship. But you got to pivot and you got to find out, what's the next step. So yes, it was very difficult. And I'll say this lastly, I started this job from home. So it was a new career, a new industry. knew everything. I was new to corporate and I was starting in my living room. So, I mean, you can imagine the fear was just gripping, right?
Mm,
Yeah, I was lucky enough to feel supported though at this job. So yeah,
okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
So on to our student questions. This student says that they are a criminal justice major and was unable to complete an internship in the immigration field due to COVID. I would love to know if there's an avenue for me to still apply to fulfill my knowledge in the criminal justice field.
Great question. So I think that first of all, criminal justice graduates and people who study criminal justice are some of the most bravest and most important people we have in our society. I think you guys, you should be learning best practices for what's new and what's changing in that field. I think it's so important. But I think that if your internship, if you lost it or if it was canceled due to COVID, as I mentioned before, it's super unfortunate and you just have to know how to pivot. And one great way to pivot, I think, is to build your network on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a fascinating tool that we can use, especially during this time when it's hard to kind of network in other ways, right? Before we had SHRM meetings, we had HR Houston meetings. We could go into these kind of conferences and network with people face to face. We don't have that anymore. But if you learn how to leverage a tool like LinkedIn, you can not only find people who are hiring in the fields that you're looking for, but you can also reach out to people and drop them a note and say, hey, here's the experience that I have, or here's what I'm studying. Do you have any internships, or do you have any advice for me? Or you can do an informational call with someone. A lot of professionals, including recruiters, are open to do informational interviews with you. And it's not where you get in there and they drill you or ask you questions behaviorally. It's literally where you go in and you ask them questions about their career. You ask them what kind of work they do, what does their day-to-day look like, and they answer all of your questions. But what it does is it creates a network for you later on. So you'll see people on their LinkedIn who also might have the job that you want. You connect with them, and then you started building your network. I think that's a fantastic way to do that.
And also I'll mention that for your major, the main career center will definitely help you as well. They have connections and they know all types of people within your area. So definitely connect with the main career center for help as well. Next question, how did you manage to leverage and highlight your skills from a different industry into HR? As someone in a similar situation of switching careers and fields and career paths, what personal reflections and insight can you share to ease some of the uncertainty?
Yeah, good question. Another good one. So first of all, I want to say, when Bill, did you delete it? Did you take did you put it over in the answer side? Oh, I want to look at
Yeah.
that. Okay, got it. I got it. No worries. So I think that the first thing that I did was, and let me preface this by saying, I think teaching is one of those careers where people think two things. First of all, they think, well, if this person can't do anything else, they kind of fall into teaching. For me, that was true, completely true. I'll accept that. But once I started teaching, I gained so many skills. I learned about pedagogy. I learned about, I was doing actual work, but people tended to think I was just sitting on a colorful rug singing songs about things that start with the letter A all day. And so sometimes, a lot of times when people would say, what do you do? And I would say, I'm a teacher. The first response would be, "Aw, like, that's so cute," and it's really not a cute job at all. It's a difficult job. It's a thankless job. It's you work really long hours and you have to go to professional developments all the time. So I think one way to leverage and highlight the skills that you have are to find things that are transferable. Study the job description of the job that you want, and then align what they're asking for with what you already do or what you've already studied, and see where the similarities lie. And then when you do get into an interview, or when you just slide into someone's direct messages on LinkedIn, you can tell them what you've done or what you've studied and how it's applicable to what they want for that job. But you got to prepare, you got to study that job description, and you got to find, you can't just go in there and send them a message and say, hey, help me out, right? You have to bring something to the party. You have to know exactly what that company is looking for, and you have to figure out and lay out ways that you can bring value to that company or to that job description. A lot of times recruiters aren't necessarily looking for someone who has 5 or 10 years of experience. A lot of times they're looking for someone who's a good culture fit. And you might be the perfect culture fit for that company, but they would never know that if they didn't know what you had to offer. So I think, in an interview or reaching out to someone about a job, that's one of the most important things you could do. And then the second thing I think is do your research on the particular company that you're going for. So a lot of times I do interviews with candidates, and they don't really know anything about HP. They know that we're a large company. They know that we're a Fortune 500 company, but they don't really know anything else about us. So they, like, for example, if I say, why HP? Why is HP important to you? They'll say something to me like, well, I've always had HP printers in my home, right? That doesn't really mean anything to me. I don't really know what that means. Do you know about what we're doing now as far as climate change? Do you know what HP is doing now around social justice? Do you know what we posted on our last couple of social media posts on Instagram or LinkedIn? What's important to us right now? What kind of mergers or acquisitions have we recently acquired? So if you come to a job interview and you have those things under your belt, it's a surefire way to stand out. We will be so impressed, and you're definitely most likely going to pass on to the next round. I think doing your homework and, just stalk their website, stalk their social media. I was shameless about it. I stalked them day and night. I wanted to learn everything about them because that was where I wanted to be. So that's what I did.
Okay, our next question. This student wants to know, how do they sign up for the internship program, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so if you're talking about signing up for the internship for HR Map for HP, every year we have a cohort-based program. So this particular symposium that we're sitting in right now is actually scheduled for a month or so before this, but we had weather events. Funnily enough, Giselle, there was a tornado that touched down in Houston today. And I thought, how funny, because we canceled this first one and now we're here again with the weather events. And I was like, please hold tight. I want to go to this internship symposium. But so I think we have this cohort program and it's on a timeline. So we have unfortunately closed the requisition. However, we have not finished hiring for the requisition yet. So what I would say to you is watch your career board at University of Houston Downtown, because if we open this registration link back up again to sign up for this requisition, I will send a note to the Career Center at University of Houston Downtown telling them that the link is open again, and then we'll post it on Gator Hired for you guys to apply again. But normally you would apply for that requisition and come to a phone screen or a coffee chat or an info session. We also had an info session with myself and University of Houston Downtown, and we will also be recruiting at University of Houston Downtown again next year for the Human Resources program.
What challenges did you face trying to change industries, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, and then it says leveraging your skills or proving you could transition successfully. It's a difficult thing to do. And I think what we talked about today with the internship is one of the best opportunities you have to leverage your skills into a new industry. And again, with teaching, unfortunately, a lot of companies don't take teachers seriously. And they feel like, well, if she's a teacher, that's pretty much all she could do. And they don't value the transferable skills that teachers have, even though we have a lot. We're organizers, we're problem solvers, we're critical thinkers, we think on our feet, we can do multiple things at one time. But if you never get an interview because people only see that you've been a teacher on your resume, it can be difficult. So I think those are the main challenges that I face trying to change industries, and overcoming them would include scoring an internship, getting into the internship, learning all that you can about that company and trying to bring value. And then also learning all you can about the company ahead of time in order to go into an interview and tell them what you have to offer.
I really like this next question. What do you do to help yourself? I'm guessing to keep yourself from burnout.
Yeah, this is a good question. So a lot of things. I manage the absolute heck out of my calendar. I never let my calendar take over. And so a full week ahead, I start blocking time off for me to not only accomplish tasks that I know I'm going to have going into the next week, and I never let those blocks come off unless there's some kind of weird HR emergency, which that never happens because there is no HR emergency. So I never let those blocks come off. I leave them on my calendar so that I can make sure that I have enough time to get my work done, but also so I can make sure that I have time to go to doctor's appointments. So I can make sure that I have time to do personal things for self-care or talk to my therapist or hang out with my family. I have an elderly father. He's 86 years old, and I like to sit with him for hours, 2 to 3 times a week, and he enjoys it too. And I don't want to give that up. So I manage my calendar super closely, I should say, so that I can get my work done, send my deliverables into my team and to my manager, but also I make sure that I have enough time for myself. I think the moment you start letting your calendar rule your day, you're opening the door to burnout. And HP is one of those companies that's really good about making sure that we get personal time or that we're able to manage our calendar as well. So, and I think, to my point earlier, finding out if your company or the company that you're interviewing for or interning for has a healthy respect for your personal time and time management, or it's called work-life balance.
Okay. Are there any internship opportunities at HP for management information systems majors?
So management information systems, and I remember this class distinctly when I was taking my MBA program at University of Houston downtown, because it was a lot of information. It was a lot of technical information. So I would say, first of all, congratulations on being successful in that major, because I know it's tough and it's difficult. We are a tech company, so all of our activities and functions and orgs at HP are aligned with management information systems. So absolutely 100%, there are opportunities there. I do not know if there are internships that are in that section, but I do know that there are job opportunities, and I would encourage you to go to hpjobs.com and look for jobs that are aligned with what you study or what you would graduate in. And absolutely, the answer to that is yes.
What was the biggest factor for you when deciding to quit your job and take a leap of faith on your internship, not a full-time or guaranteed job afterwards?
So I've started out being honest with you guys. I'm going to close it the same way. So when I would go into work, sometimes I would drive into the parking lot of that elementary school, and I found it so difficult to go inside sometimes. And not because of the kids, but I think just because I just was so unsatisfied. And sometimes I would go into the parking lot in the morning and I just, I would sit there with my coffee and I would think, like, you can do this. I literally would have to have pep talks with myself, like, get out of the car, you can do this, go inside of this building and do your job. And, at some point, it just got so untenable for me. I was so unhappy, right? And I would spend like my conference periods sometimes just sulking, and it felt like what depression might feel like. I just was really unhappy, and I am this person who needs to feel like there's meaning behind the work that I do. I need to feel connected to the work that I do. Teachers have a very important job, and I think the passion needs to be there. You shouldn't be teaching children or working with children or interacting with them if you don't have a passion for their learning. I still believe that. And I didn't have that. And I thought, I'm not only doing myself a disservice, I'm doing these kids a disservice as well. I'm not happy here with them. And so I think that was my final breaking point. And I had come to that point, I would say, in 2015 or 2016. But, as I mentioned, it was really difficult to break into a different industry coming from an education background. So the biggest factor for me was just the sheer misery that I felt every single day going into my job. And I wonder if other people in other industries experience that, if they just go into work every day and they're completely disengaged and unhappy. I'm sure they do, right? And we wouldn't have so many people trying to switch their careers if that didn't happen. But I think that was the biggest factor for me, just non-ending unhappiness.
So this student is currently a master's student in the cybersecurity track. Again, are there any internships currently for this major? So this is kind of going along the lines of the MIS as well.
Yeah, hi Zainab, 100%. Cybersecurity is one of those fields that we're always looking for talented individuals in cybersecurity. We can't source them enough, as a matter of fact. Cybersecurity is a hot topic. I would encourage you to go to our LinkedIn, hpcareers.com, HP Careers on our Instagram, and you will see opportunities for cybersecurity internships and full-time positions. We are always looking for cybersecurity. And I would say it's one of those fields that if we're never looking for anything else, we will be looking for cybersecurity. So yes.
So how long did it take you to find a job after your internship?
So my internship ended in August, on August the 2nd. And when I knew that I wasn't going back to that job, I immediately started, back on the grind of applying. But this time I was being more intentional about where I was applying. I didn't just apply for a job because it was out there. I didn't want to go back into a situation of joining a company, even if it wasn't education, if I was going to be unhappy there. So I started doing my research and finding companies that I thought I might want to work at. I knew that industry wasn't going to be oil and gas. So I started to look at tech, and I started to look at human resource outsourcing companies. So I started to look in those areas, and it took me I applied for the job at HP at the end of August, and they called me, I think 4 to 5 weeks later. I started interviewing with HP in September, and they had offered me the position by November. So keep in mind, I was still at University of Houston downtown. I was wrapping up my second year, but they had already offered me the position, and they said, once your MBA is in hand, you'll start working with us. So about 4 months, to answer your question.
And just to piggyback off of that, that's normal. From going to when you apply to when you start. In our earlier session today, I talked about kind of the timeline, because a lot of our students, you guys get a little bit disencouraged that you apply for these things and 2-3 weeks afterwards, you hear nothing and you think that nothing's happening, when the process sometimes just takes a long time. Keep your spirits up, because sometimes it does take that time to process.
I agree. And that takes us to our next question. So this person says they're actively looking to job switch, but after that first introduction, they never get to the next step. Am I doing something wrong? Likely no. Likely you're not doing anything wrong. You have to keep in mind that there are hundreds, maybe thousands of applicants, and the applicant tracking system first is screening out those people. But then once you get to the recruiter phase or that first phone screen phase, you're likely not doing anything wrong. You just have to find a way to differentiate yourself. So if I interview 50 people in one day, I'm really looking for those interactions that I can remember. I'm looking for those people who obviously are going to bring something to the table. I'm going to love working with them. I'm going to love collaborating with them. You need to showcase your desire to collaborate, your desire to be on a team, and you need to make sure that you showcase your ability to be agile, flexible, and to be a critical thinker. And I think those things we talked about earlier, being able to dissect a case, being able to come to the interview and show your interviewer that you are passionate about not just this job, but about their company, not the industry, their company, right? If I would have just gone into this interview and said, oh, I love tech, right? I love computers. I'm really into AI. Not enough. They want to know, are you going to come to HP? Do you have a passion for HP? And are you going to bring value to us because you vibe with us, basically? So I think differentiation is key here. They talk to hundreds of people every day. So I think getting someone to remember you, to remember your name, or to remember your experiences, not your job experience, but experiences that you've had. So if they're asking you a behavioral question, like, tell me about a time you worked on a project and it wasn't going the way that you wanted, you need to give them an answer that blows them away, that makes them know that I would love to collaborate with this person, right? You don't necessarily have to be the problem solver in that instance, but you do need to showcase to them that you are willing to be a team player and you stand out in some kind of way.
So for someone approaching graduation with almost 10 years of experience and not necessarily looking to pursue an internship at this time, what advice or information could you give them?
This is a good question, Donovan. And, to be fair and to be honest with you, I didn't want to start my career with an internship either, but I knew after all of the prep work and applications and things that I had done to get an interview for a full-time position, after I saw that they just didn't work, I think an internship was, I knew that was what I needed to get the experience. Internship is kind of like free experience. It's like someone teaching you while they pay you to do a job, but you're also learning and you have something to put on your resume, and that's invaluable when you're trying to switch your careers. I can't say enough about the fact that not everyone is in a position to do an internship. Not everyone is in a position to quit a possible full-time job they have now to start an internship without knowing the outcome. And I think so a part of that is risk taking. However, if you get an interview for an internship, you are well within your rights to go to that interview, go through the entire process of that interview, and at the end of the interview, ask your interviewer, what full-time opportunities do they have that align with my skills? Well within your opportunity to ask that, and we'd be happy to talk to you about that if those opportunities do exist. So nothing wrong with that at all, but that would be the advice that I have as far as that. Hello, Maxine. See that Maxine has just joined us. But yeah, Donovan, that would be my advice to you for that question.
Okay, so next question. I'm an MBA candidate with a concentration in finance. I applied last year for an internship at HP. I even called many times, but I never got any feedback. I earned my bachelor's degree overseas, and I don't have any major professional experience here in the US. And I think it's playing against me to find a job in my field. Reason why I'm mostly looking for an internship. Do you think this year I can have more chances, or I have more chances to gain an internship at HP? And are you guys looking for MBA interns in the finance field?
Okay, so many things going on in this question. Let me try to see if I can address all of them. So first, it's unfortunate that you applied at HP or any company and no one reached back out to you to kind of give you feedback or at least give you an update on your application process. So apologies for that. I know in my sector, we always try to reach back out to all of our candidates and give all of them the individual feedback if they've asked for it on their interview or their application. So that's the first thing. I apologize for that. The second thing is, if you earn your bachelor's degree overseas, I am not sure if you have a work authorization to work in the United States. For many of our internships, we do require work authorization for the United States. If you have that, great, you can move on to the next thing. So if you interviewed and you didn't get a call back, probably it was just because there were so many candidates and those jobs are competitive. So a lot of jobs, especially in those areas like cybersecurity, as I mentioned before, HR, finance even, or IT and engineering, super competitive, but no reason for your recruiter not to have reached back out to you. And even more so if you reached out to your recruiter and you still didn't hear back. So I would say, do I think you have more chances to get accepted at HP? Always. We're always looking for talent, and we do have some internships for finance, but I will say that those positions are few and far between. There are not so many of them. I don't have connections with finance function or in that organization, but I do know that the finance interns that they accept are not so many. But I would definitely encourage you to continue applying, and please connect with me on LinkedIn. And if I hear anything, I can definitely shoot you a note or a link and have you apply for an internship.
Is the requisitions you have spoken about different from all of the summer internship postings from HP? Are you able to speak about those?
Yes, so my requisition would be specifically for the internship with the HR MAP program. So that's a human resource MAP internship. So if we have other internship postings, those would sit inside of a different requisition. And I don't have any visibility into those because my function is closed off by the HR board as far as hiring is concerned. So my requisition would be for the internship in HR.
What tips do you have for students who aren't able to acquire an internship during undergrad?
So like me, yes, I wasn't able to acquire an internship in undergrad, but more importantly, I'm a first generation college student and I didn't know that they existed. I think I was just going to university because I knew it was something that I needed to do, and I didn't know the importance of internships. I knew they existed, I didn't know how to find them, and I didn't know how important they were. So if you graduated with your undergraduate degree and you never had an internship, it's not too late. We don't hire bachelor students for our internship. We only hire master students for our internship. So a quick Google search or on Indeed.com for master's level internships, it'll bring you back some results. A lot of companies only intern master's level students for a specific field. So there's still hope. You can always apply for an internship. I think the bigger question is, are you prepared to actually lead out and dedicate yourself and your summer to an internship to get that experience? A lot of times it's difficult if we have full-time jobs and we can't make that commitment. But do I think it's worth it? Absolutely.
Okay, so I believe we have time for maybe a couple more just to be respectful of your time. So what are some tips that you can provide to stand out in a resume, LinkedIn profile, or during an interview?
Yeah, so I gave a couple earlier, Luis, and I'll try to answer this one and the last ones that I see on the screen, and I'll be super quick. So I think number one is doing your research about that company, going out and finding their social media pages and finding out specific things that you can talk about in the interview, and also finding out specific things that are aligned with what's important to you. For example, we have a lot of work we do in the environment. If the environment is something that's important to you and you're learning about HP sustainability impact, and you go to the interview and you tell your interviewer why that's important to you and why you love what we're doing around sustainability, that'll be a tip that you can use to stand out in your interview. Your interviewer will remember you. Connect with people on LinkedIn and follow us on social media. Not just us, but any company that you want to apply for. Follow that company on social media, go to their website, learn as much as you can about them, and when you get an interview, take that information to your interview. So the next one says, now that the posting has closed, when will you all start reaching out and looking to hire? So we closed our posting about 1 week ago, and we are now calibrating and having our final behavioral and case study interviews with HRLT. We are looking to send out offers mid-November. The next part says, what is your favorite part of the job so far? It's by far learning everything that I can about HR. as I mentioned, I came into this company and to this industry and I didn't know anything about HR, but people here are always willing to put a call on with you and to help you and teach you the things that you need to know. So I thought it was going to be really difficult. And sometimes it is. You have to build organic relationships with people through a computer screen, and that can be kind of tricky or glitchy at times, but you make it work. And I think humans are more resilient than we give ourselves credit for. And so, yeah, my favorite part of the job has been the culture. I love the culture at this company. They're great. When would be a good idea to apply for an internship? Would it be best for junior or senior year before graduation? As early as you can. So if you are in your bachelor's degree, it's a fantastic idea to start applying for internships after your freshman year, because at that point you have an idea about what you want to study, what kind of work experience you want to get. But as soon as you see an internship that you're interested in, go ahead and apply for it, because if you have more than one internship over the course of your entire undergraduate career, the more internships you have, the better. And then I see, so what do you recommend when applicants have interviewed for positions and been advised that a decision will be made by the College of Business that day, but you have not heard anything back? College of Business? Is that what they mean? College of Business as in
Yeah,
the university?
COB.
And you have been advised that a decision will be made by the College of Business that day. Are they talking about a position with University of Houston downtown?
Oh, I think they're saying close of business, looks like.
Oh, close of business. That's
Sorry, I think she wrote it in the question part.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Close of business, not College of Business.
Did you apply with Brett and Brett didn't call you back? No, I'm just kidding. So I would say that if you haven't heard anything back, again, it's unfortunate when recruiters or companies say that they will return an answer back to you at a certain time frame and they don't. If it's been over a week, I would go ahead and reach back out to them with an email reminding them of who you are, what you applied for, who you interviewed with, and maybe something to help them remember that they had that conversation with you, and then ask them when you can expect next steps. I think at that point, they should have something for you if it's feedback or if they can tell you when they're going to the next steps. But I think it's completely appropriate to reach back out to that person who you interviewed. And she said she's interviewed for 2 positions in 2 different departments. And then they said they were having a difficult time choosing between the 2 interviewees, and you are one of the 2. That's actually good news. It means that you're shortlisted. It means that they were interested in you. Sometimes it can be really challenging to choose between 2 talented candidates, but I always believe that companies should reach back out to you. So if they still don't reach out to you after that, my advice to you would be to reconsider whether you really want to work for that company who isn't giving you that great initial experience of interviewing and with the recruiter from the beginning, because I don't know how great it would be after that. When looking for and/or considering candidates for internships, is there any thought given to GPAs? Oh, not with me. To be completely honest with you, not with me. When I talk with candidates, I'm looking at their resume. I want to know what they've done. Sure. If you've got a degree, you've got a degree. I think that people bring more to the table in terms of their experiences and in terms of what value they can bring to the company and the projects that I'm working on. I think for sure some companies do look at GPA. I wouldn't advise you to go in with, the super low GPA and then have an expectation for a super high outcome for some companies. But at HP, it's not something that we make as a requirement for our internship. So not here. Thank you for the information. This is definitely going to help us land an internship. Oh, I hope so. I think that internships are one of the greatest ways for you to grow as an individual. But keep in mind that you are also interviewing that company, so be tough on them. Is federal work study valued? Federal work study. I am not familiar what that is. Giselle, do you know what they mean by that?
So federal work study is a program that universities have where students work on campus, and basically that's how they're paid, through federal compensation. So it's still work experience. It's just how they're being paid for that experience.
Oh, then I don't think that companies care if it was like a federal program or federally funded. I don't think they care about that. I think they care about the quality and the type of work that you were doing. So I would highlight that. I would just tell them everything that I've done and the value that I brought to that position. But all work experience is valued. It just depends on how you present it to your interviewer and how you let them see the value that you have and your contributions that you can bring to their company.
Well, Khadijah, you ran through those questions really well.
I'm out of
Thank
breath.
you.
Did a good job.
Yes.
It's a
Thank
lot.
you so much for your time coming to speak with our students. Our students asked you some really good questions. So I really hope that this has helped you guys with your internship decisions and making things a little bit clearer and clearing up some kind of myths that we talked about throughout the whole symposium. Again, Khadijah, I would like to thank you for your time, even though we rescheduled and we almost was a little iffy this morning. But again, thank you so much. We appreciate you and your time.
Thank you, Giselle, and thank you, Brett, and thank you, Maxine. And I have just put my name there. You guys are more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to do that and happy to make that connection. I put the websites there as well for the other people who are interested in cybersecurity and finance jobs. Please apply and please reach out to me, and anything that I can do to help get some U of H downtown students into the hands of HP, I would do it. I believe in this university. I love these students. I love the university. So I'm happy to do it. And Giselle and Brett and Maxine, if you guys need anything else from me, don't hesitate to reach out.
You know, we will. Thank you, Khadijah, for all your support. We're so proud of you and your success, and we appreciate you staying engaged with us. It's so meaningful, and I know the students got so much out of this today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.